a time, because that is the reality of everybody's life. And it's also the adventure of everybody's life, is that God gives us one day at a time, one moment at a time, and that we're able to enjoy what God has given to us and what He is doing in our life. And that leads right into what I want to talk about in terms of the sermon. Talk about being a house of prayer. Because Jesus, in entering into Jerusalem, and He came in triumphantly. He was in the temple area, and people were busy selling and doing things. He drove them off, and He said, "Look, my Father's house is a house of prayer." And what I'd like to do today is talk about the Father's house and being a house of prayer and what that might look for each one of us, because we don't have a temple in Jerusalem today. Even though some people believe that the only place that prayers really can go to God is from the temple area. In fact, there's a group evidently on the internet where you can send your prayers to them. They will take them literally over there and put them in the temple wall, and that way they'll go to God. Otherwise, they really don't get above the first level of space or beyond your shouting distance. But Jesus said, and He quoted that from Isaiah chapter 56 and verse 7, and what I just mentioned was in Luke chapter 19 and verse 46, where Jesus says that, "My house will be a house of prayer." And let's look at, though, in Isaiah for us, in Isaiah chapter 56, where he quoted this from. Again, we're reminded of Jesus giving authenticity to the Scriptures, the Old Testament Scriptures here. And he talks about here, he says, "These will I bring to my holy mountain and give them joy in my house of prayer." I'd like for us to think that in God's house of prayer, there is indeed joy. There is peace, there's a sense of happiness. It says, "Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer, and a house of prayer for all nations." It involves everybody, and certainly that's something that we know, we understand, and we appreciate today. That no matter who we are, that we can come to God in prayer, and we can appreciate that. As was mentioned, and as I think all of you understand, this past Thursday was the National Day of Prayer, where the nation was to get together, and there was a common theme that they wanted to express from the book of Chronicles in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verses 11 through 16, I want to mention here for us. But this is after Solomon had dedicated the temple. And God had done incredible things. When reading through this, I thought it was kind of interesting, and I don't know that this is necessarily the case, but it could well have been. It says here in verse 11 of 2 Chronicles, it says, "When Solomon had finished the temple of the Lord," and then there's "and the royal palace," and had succeeded in carrying out all that he had in mind to do in the temple of the Lord and in his palace, the Lord appeared to him at night and said. It seems to me that Solomon may have delayed this a little bit so that his palace could be finished as well. It's kind of like, this is a building development project. We want to finish not only the temple, but we want my palace to be dedicated as well. I'm just saying it seems to be that way. That may not be. God came to him and spoke. He says, "I've heard your prayer, and I've chosen this place for myself as a temple for sacrifices. And when I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command locusts to devour the land, or send a plague among the people," this was the theme of the National Day of Prayer, "if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I will heal them their land. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to the prayers offered in this place. I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will always be there." I think, wow, this is an incredible place to be. And I recall in 1967, as I came over a brow of the hill, and there lay before me the city of Jerusalem. and that evening going down to the Wailing Wall, one cannot help but want to pray, because this is where I am. I am in the holy city. I am in Jerusalem. I am at the temple spot. And it is amazing how that location can prompt one to pray. Just as the house of prayer, my Father's house shall be called the house of prayer, when coming into that's what the nation of Israel, the people, would do. And I would think that if you had some really special problems, or felt that you had some special problems, that one would make the journey, as it were, to get closer to God or God's presence in terms of praying. And thinking, okay, here I am. I'm actually at the temple, and I can pray. Now, we realize that in the temple, the Gentiles could not go in. There was a court of the Gentiles, and we also recognize women were held up short as far as that is concerned. But in our day and age, you and I, brethren, have an opportunity, though there is not a temple, to come to God in prayer. And in the Old Testament times, we recognize that the tabernacle originally was a tent that was moved about through the wilderness, and then we realized that finally there was a huge temple that was built, gorgeous and absolutely splendid in every sense of the way. And if any of you have been to temples, you realize how ornate and how beautiful that they can be. I'm thinking about the fact that when we went into Athens in Greece, the temple there to the Temple Diana, it's up on a huge, what's called Acropolis, or, a big mountain like. And as you sail into the harbor, the way that it was situated, that as the sun rose or set, the sun would shine on this gold image of Diana, and it would, you could see it for, I believe they said like 20 to 40 miles out to sea. It just took your breath away because it was so glorious. Well, the temple of God, you can just imagine there in Jerusalem how gorgeous and how beautiful, how wonderful the temple must have been, and how it must have spawned prayers for people. That it just set them at awe to see this beautiful, gorgeous temple with all the gold that was in there, and the way in which it had been arranged, and all that God had done. And then with that as well, one would have to think, added to that, in that temple, the temple of God was the Holy of Holies. And this is where God dwelt. The glory of God, the Shekinah, the cloud, the light in there, the presence of God. How awesome and wonderful it must have been. And if I had been the high priest and I had the opportunity, only one person, the high priest, could go in one time a year, how awe-inspiring. How much I could pray. I don't know how much they did pray. I don't know how much of their prayers were just traditional prayers, that this is the prayer that you pray on the day of the Day of Atonement, when you go into the Holy of Holies. I don't know what it was about. But you think just that location, being there, the one person to pray, to make intercession for the people, what a prayer one could pray. And think about it for a moment. If you were at the temple, the original temple, what prayer would you pray? Just this day, would there be a prayer that you would pray?